Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of Flesh Wound Farce, where we review and discuss your and our favorite comedy films. This is the world's first and only combination trivia host and professional wrestling announcer of Chilean descent that currently resides in Southern California, Ozzy V. And with me as always on this program, first in the Northern California Bay Area, world famous juggler, Greg Larson. How you doing, Greg?
Dude, Ozzy, I'm doing great. I've got my space pirate jersey in a way, kind of. Good old Han Solo. But life's good. This may be one of my last times recording in this venue as I got a job promotion and I'll be moving soon. So there will be a new background to see. It'll be
wonderful.
Fantastic. How are you, Ozzy?
We'll discuss that momentarily. What is it,
good.
Todd? I
was going to say you already ruined it for the rest of us before we even started recording.
Ruined it for the rest of us, as though it's anything's going to be ruined beyond that can be more ruined than this movie.
Well, because you got our genuine reaction to what you said earlier before the show was even recording,
which for me was what? Yeah,
there you go. Yeah. See, it doesn't work the same now.
It doesn't. It's flat. But it's okay.
Speaking of flat,
right.
do you have a trailer for this? I apologize for those that aren't aware. We're reviewing and discussing Ice Pirates, released on March 16th, 1984, of MGM United Artists. Todd, do you have a TV spot or a trailer available that you can?
I do, from a local KT TV 5 or whatever it is.
Let's check that out.
It'll take you back.
Now, Sunday at 6, it's a galactic adventure with the Raiders of Outer Space.
Relax, be cool, and whatever you do, don't panic.
In the far-out future, water's more precious than gold, and the Ice Pirates discover more than their share of treasures.
It's all yours, laddies.
Robert Urich, Mary Crosby, and Angelica Houston fight the ultimate space wars. Ice Pirates, Sunday at 6 on Channel 5.
Channel 5.
Yeah.
Well then, that was Ice Pirates. Now, Robert Urich. I was so
Spencer for hire. Remember, he's already gone, so don't be too.
No. I think it's more has to do with the direction. So this had a runtime of 91 minutes. It was rated PG. Directed by Stuart Raphael, who also directed Mac and Me, the Philadelphia Experiment.
Oh, that makes sense.
There you go. Right. And go ahead.
He also wrote Passenger 57.
That's what I just said.
Oh, okay. Well, you brought up his one that everyone hates.
No, and then I said Philadelphia Experiment and Passenger 57.
And I'm also going to throw out a Flesh Wound favorite, Tammy and the T-Rex.
Okay. Anyway, so
Ozzy doesn't care about anyone else on foot. It's Ozzy V.
What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about at all. But what frustrated me, initial thoughts is that at first I was thinking, so MGM, Lucas actually first went to United Artists to offer them Star Wars, and they turned it down. And I think, Todd, can you confirm, was MGM one of those studios that turned down Star Wars?
Every studio turned down Star Wars. So yes.
So there you go. Everybody was trying to catch something. And at first, there were some elements that made you think, okay, this is going to be like Spaceballs. And then in the second's like, wait, it's starting to take itself seriously. It's almost midway. The studio was like, hey, could we make this into a franchise?
Actually, you know what the case is? This started out as a serious script, but at this point in time, the fad of space movies was dying out, because this is right around the time Power of the Force figures came out, and no one cared anymore. So that was after Return of the Jedi wave. It was the Power of the Force.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it wasn't just the films. It was in general, the sci-fi craze was dying down. So when they figured out that, well, we're going to make it more humorous and turned it into a comedy.
Do you believe, or was the casting already done when the decision had already been made?
Timeline wise, I don't know when that happened.
Because I'd be curious, because especially for the main character, definitely like a Han Solo knockoff, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's actually this is a loose remake of Jason and the Argonauts, which is why his name's actually Jason in here.
I was
So-
wondering that. Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, obvious Star Wars was an influence on every space movie since.
Right. Except the droids not having voices. Like one of the robots that kept following them around, I kept adding my own Mystery Science Theater commentary. Like, and there was moments where it just left it open. It was fantastic. But anyhow, Greg, get initial thoughts on this move.
So this movie, I've seen like the poster, on streaming before, and I was like, every time I saw it, I was just like, that looks dumb. So I always passed on it. And, after watching it, I'm not wrong with my initial assessment, but for me, it was like dumb in just the right way. Like this, I think I get it, Ozzy. This gave me that lost skeleton stupidity at times. And so that's why, like, I thought this was going to be one of the movies that I just was like, let's get through this. But I really enjoyed it.
See, what's fun? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Todd.
No, I was going to say I expected Ozzy to love it too. But you know what his problem is? I think if Spaceballs didn't exist, this movie would have had a bigger chance with him.
Possible.
Probably, but I will say what now. It honestly didn't make me laugh as much as probably either of you, obviously. However, I was still intrigued in what was going to happen next. Like, I still was just like, okay, so this guy that literally mentioned rape about this princess ends up getting rescued by the very princess he mentioned that. But anyway, it was the 80s, I guess, so whatever.
Rape was a looser thing in the 80s.
Oh, poor choice of words. Now,
or perfect choice of words.
moving on.
If I made that joke, we'd have an issue.
Anyhow, I mean, here's what really frustrated me, and this was in the particular TV spot we just saw. And for those listening on the audio only version podcast, it was a machine that was going to castrate somebody, and the scream that he let out when that was coming just seemed like, oh dude, come on. Like, if you saw something like that, you should have been 100 times louder. And I think that's where I gotta fault the director, and as I mentioned, as Mac and me. So
Yeah, I can't even argue with that. That is literally one of the worst movies ever, and I know it has a cult following now. And it's like I'm Team Garbage Pail Kids over Team Mac and me. But I get the hate for both of them. I really do.
Right.
If it weren't for Paul Rudd, I don't think Mac and Me would have as much of a following these days.
You know what? You're right.
Fair point.
Which, I'm sorry, like, I don't know if you guys saw, but when he pulled that stunt on a podcast recently,
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's golden. That's just golden. But
Can you please describe what happened?
what, the Mac and Me thing?
Yeah,
So
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, so really? Oh man. So
Yeah.
In general, like the whole stick.
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay,
I saw
go.
Mac and Me
Every
once, and I was
time-
like, I don't need to see that again. I didn't even remember.
no,
it.
it's not even got to do anything with the movie. But every time
Okay.
Paul Rudd has like been on a show with Conan, like every time he's been interviewed by Conan, whenever you're promoting something, you like bring a clip of your film, and so every time he'd come on, he'd be like, yeah, this is a clip from like Ant-Man, he'd just go ahead, check it out, and he'd always play the scene from Mac and Me where the kid's like rolling down on the wheelchair, and like so he did this every time, and almost every time, like especially in the later ones, you kind of expect it, but he's so good at lulling you into like forgetting or thinking, oh, what he's setting up, that can't be it. But sure enough, he'd do it. And like, you just loved it every time. And so he was on Conan's podcast recently and talking about this new show he was doing where, you know, it involved all these great voiceover actors and actresses and such, and like gave this whole synopsis about this new show that he's doing and just really drug it along. And sure enough, he ends up playing the Mac and Me bit. And it was just so good. And Conan's like, this is a podcast. It doesn't work in audio format. He's like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it worked out just fine. So, but yeah, it was a great segment. Paul Rudd's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. Todd, I don't believe I asked your initial thoughts on this one, did I?
You didn't. This is one I see. I can't gauge as well because this one definitely has nostalgia for me because I did see it as a kid. I saw it, you know, in the theaters, and I love post.
Mom, what's rape?
Actually, it's basically a post-nuke film in space, and I love like the 80s Mad Max ripoffs. And we even have some in here. It's just a fun movie for me. So not Ozzy, but for me.
Well, the moment, I mean, to that point, it is the concept of like the Mad Max ripoff in space. Like, I like that too. You know, water's a prime resource, and that's what intrigued me to keep watching the movie and not like fall asleep or anything like that. But
you just didn't like Killjoy.
It just fell flat as a comedy.
Yeah.
I have no favorite moment. Like, I didn't really laugh at anywhere.
How rude.
Well, I mean, okay, one time. We'll just jump into this right now. The space herpy.
Oh,
that's the only, like, that was the only thing I was like, that above all else stands out as the funniest thing for me out of everything.
I feel like I've got to take Todd's, and I don't know why. And I'm sorry if this is it, but Robo Pimp. Like,
God,
I'm sorry. Want to see some titties?
You took it, but that's okay.
Like, I had to rewind. Like, I was like, did he just say that? Like, I had to rewind and watch.
This was rated PG before the PG-13 rating was out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I got to see it as a child.
There you go.
I think I was 8, maybe 7 when this came out.
Did you watch this right after Dr. Detroit?
84. You know what? I'd probably seen Dr. Detroit by this point, so I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a replacement for your favorite?
I don't, because you know what? You took both of them.
Well,
one was that, when the other was
but I think
Space
that's indicative of the amount of, you know, hilarity that's in the movie. If they, from the start, like when they initially wrote this, if they had written it as a comedy, I think it could have been better. Because it was like it was a decent enough plot, like, you know, with the princess trying to find her father so she can find this, you know, world that has water, whatever. Okay, fine, whatever. And I find that I'm more forgiving when it comes to science fiction instead of like westerns, fantasy, anything that takes place on Earth, especially a stupid skeleton. But this one, I actually was intrigued at what was going on and did want to know what was going to happen next. I just wish it had more comedic elements into it instead of just forced into it, which kind of felt like at times. And then towards the last 30 minutes, it's like they forgot it was a comedy, and it's like they just went back probably to the original script, Todd, that you mentioned. That's what it felt like for me. I don't know about you guys.
I forgot to throw this one out. For those who have a keen eye, they recycle some footage from Logan's Run and even have some ships in the background. So,
by the way, speaking of the background, there is a chase that takes place on one of these planets on Mithra, and they forgot to, I guess, or somebody didn't privy them to, like, hey, this angle includes all the street lights. So there's one shot. Now, if you are brave, this is on HBO Max. If you'd like to brazen this, I should have gotten the actual timestamp of it, but it's when they're on planet Mithra and they're being chased. There's one shot All the other shots have just complete like a dark background, like where it's as though there's just no street lights, there's just buildings and whatever. Which, by the way, it is funny that it looks like it's a typical downtown place as a ship's taking off. But there's one shot where you just look like these are street lights on Sunset Boulevard. Like it's kind of awesome for a second. If they just played off that and made it like just went full on like kind of like Black Dynamite, it would have been awesome. So. Nah, going into the rating now, man, because I was intrigued throughout the entire 90 minutes, roughly, it's 91 minutes. But I didn't really laugh at all as a comedy. I'll just give it a 2. Call it a day.
Wow.
Greg?
I really enjoyed this.
I really enjoyed this?
Yeah, I did. Like, it was
Okay.
fun. It had
All
some
right.
funny moments. I enjoyed the characters. I always am hesitant with older movies and watching them for the first time because when the nostalgia's not there, it sometimes takes a bit for someone to enjoy it for the first time in a the newer styles of comedy. But I have to give this a solid 4. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed this flick. Like, would I watch it over and over? But like for a one-time watch, and maybe sometime like
that's
later
the thing.
down the road
Hold on a second though. Oh, I just want to challenge you on something. If you're rating something a 4, but you're calling it a one-time watch, should it really have such a high rating?
Yes, because I don't watch movies repeatedly for the most part. Normally only 5s. Do I have the time or the energy to watch it again? Now, I will probably watch this again at some point if there's someone who hasn't watched it, and I'll be happy to watch it with someone who hasn't watched it. Or, if I'm having a fun evening,
Okay, well, that's exactly what I was about to say is don't do it at night because whoever has not seen this before is going to fall asleep.
You just
No, go ahead.
Get some sand
well, I mean, no,
Well,
actually,
I'll be the second one to give this movie a 4.
Oh my god.
That's right, my man.
So in other words, Ozzy's wrong. So we'll just
What?
Majority rules. Flesh Wound gives it a 4.
Wow. I know I did say I misspoke. Whoever you show it will not fall asleep, but just tell them like, hey, don't expect like anything super funny, but just like, as we're hanging out, having pizza, whatever, we're playing Madden on the TV over here and we got something on in the background. There you go. But just don't. I would if you go in with lowered expectations, you should be good. I think that's a fair statement.
Is this when I say Ozzy did pick this one this week?
Okay, time out.
Good job. No one's giving you good.
Okay. So anyway, that was Ice Pirates. And next week we'll be back with a new episode. That will not be Ice Pirates, thankfully.
Ice Pirates 2.
No! Please don't tell me there's a sequel.
No, there's not.
I will say
this
I
movie
would
did
not be
flop.
surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if there was actually a reboot of this and it was turned into a franchise. Because at the beginning I got some Guardians of the Galaxy vibes.
They actually say that that's one of the ones that there's a few other ones that this kind of like not necessarily inspired, but uses some of the vibes. That's been named as one. And I didn't write down the other one.
Yeah, but anyhow, so we'll see what happens in the future.
It is a cult classic. Just throwing that out there. So it's not like no one's seen this. This definitely does have a following.
Well, and you can see it if you haven't seen it before on HBO Max. Didn't have any sort of date that said until whenever. So
it's a Warner
check it
property.
out.
So
there
it should
you
be there
go.
for a while.
Probably. Ever. All right. Greg, Todd, you got anything else to say about this film or this episode?
Definitely worth checking out on HBO Max, man. Like it's definitely.
I own the Blu-ray.
Are there any good like special things on it?
I remember there's a little making. I know Ozzy always asks if there's a commentary, so unfortunately Ozzy didn't get to watch it before. But let me just double check. It actually it has nothing but a trailer. Ozzy said too much.
It's because it's stupid.
Which
it's
is
actually
why
from the
great.
It's actually from the Warner Archive collection, so they don't go all out in the special features.
Okay. All right. But that was Ice Pirates available on HBO Max, and there's a Blu-ray available with only a trailer as a bonus feature. So there you go. We'll be back next week with a new episode. Anything else for the week? Todd, Greg? All right, then. That's world famous juggler Greg Larson, Flesh Wound producer Todd. I'm Ozzy V. We'll see you next week right here on Flesh Wound Farce.